you how to teach place work to your dog. So for me, place is more about a state of mind and a boundary around space rather than a command. So I actually don't even use a word to teach it, because whenever I do place, I'm using a leash. The reason I do it with a leash is to reinforce the leash as something that's a leadership tool and something that you use to communicate with your dog. So I'm not going to say a word, but if you do want to add a word, I will tell you when you can do it. So why do we do place work? It's a really good way to teach your dog boundaries around your space. So if you have a dog that has an issue with separation or has any issues with micromanaging the space, such as dogs who rush the door, get in the way when you're trying to cook or eat, place work is a really good practical skill for these dogs to have. And it's a good way to teach them conditioned relaxation as well. So we want to show a dog that when we put you in a space, you can relax and settle there. You don't have to worry about anything else that's going on around you outside of that space. All you have to do is stay within that boundary. So when I'm teaching a dog place, I don't tell them to lie down. I don't even tell them to sit. All I do is hold them accountable to staying within the boundaries of So all I really do is hold them accountable to staying within the boundary of this bed. I'm going to show you the full exercise, but right now I'm just bringing Razzie back because she got off. So you always want to follow through with place. That's why having a leash really helps, because if your dog gets off, you've got a leash on them, it's easy enough to guide them back on. I would use a little bit longer leash is better than a shorter leash. So if you've only got a short leash, grab a 15-foot line from the dollar store and clip that to the end of your leash, or clip it to your dog's collar, and that'll give you enough room to work with. When you're starting to teach place, I highly recommend doing it when there's nothing else going on. So do it when you're also doing nothing. You're going to need to keep at least one eye on your dog to follow through with putting them back on the boundary if they get off of it. So I recommend doing this when you're chilling on your couch, watching TV, on your phone, reading a book, something like that to start. Once your dog can fully settle and relax in those conditions, you can start practicing it when you're moving around the room, such as when you're cooking dinner, and adding in distractions, so on and so forth. I would say practice place for a minimum 30 minutes to an hour session. Once per day is great. And I think I was about to mention this when Razzie got off, but basically the goal of place is, or as the handler, our goal with place is just to hold dogs accountable to staying within this boundary. We cannot force them to relax, so I don't want to tell a dog to lie down and make them lie down. I want them to choose to lie down on their own, like Razzie just did. So our job is to keep them accountable to the boundary of place, and their job is to choose to settle and relax when they're ready. Always helpful to exercise your dog before doing place. Okay, so let me show you how we start. So when I start with place, I'm going to have the leash and I'm going to guide a dog on with the leash. If they resist a little bit, you can hold pressure until they take a step forward. So I'm just holding pressure, and if she doesn't take a step forward in a minute or so, I'll just add a little bit more. And then release pressure when she gets on the place. Once she's on the place, I want to show her that this is a boundary I want her to stay within. So I'm going to walk around the bed to claim the space. I'm going to circle it to show her all of this space I am claiming. That looks great with her. So then I'm going to walk away a little bit further, and I'm kind of just walking away just to tempt her off. And I want to show her, like, even if I'm moving away, I want you to stay there. So if she were to try to get off, I would either catch her with the leash, or I would use my spatial pressure, which is moving towards her, to show her to stay within the space. Embarrassing trip over there. If she does actually get off the place, I'll simply bring her right back on, but that means that my timing might be a little bit slow. So if she goes off, I'm going to anticipate that she's going to try it again. So when I bring her back on again, I'm going to be ready to kind of catch her before she gets off the place. Once she's stationary, like sitting is already fine, I give her most of this leash, and I would have a seat here. So say you're inside, this is your couch. So I would have a seat here, just using the leash there to keep her from moving forward. So I'd be sitting here next to her, and I'd kind of just have one eye on her. It's always really helpful to have your dog beside you as opposed to in front of you, because this exercise we want them to disengage and relax. And if you're face to face with your dog, they're probably going to think you want to engage with them, and it'll be hard for them to relax. So make sure they're beside you to start. So I'd be hanging out like this, you know, about 30 minutes to an hour of time expected. I would be reading a book, on my phone, whatever, and I would let Razzie do her thing. If she decides to lie down, I'll give her calm praise, tell her she's a good girl. If she tries to get off, I will replace her, and if she does if she tries to get off, I'm going to try and catch her before with either a snap, spatial pressure, or leash. And if I fail to do that and she does get off, then I'll simply bring her right back on. So we've got, 30 minutes on the clock, let's say, and if she doesn't fully settle during that time, that's okay. As long as I'm practicing holding her accountable to this boundary, that's really all that matters. So once 30 minutes is up, you can give a cue such as let's go if you want to, or you can simply pick up the leash and walk away with her. Forgot to say, I would tell you when to say the word. So if you want to name this activity place, you could say it as your dog is stepping on the bed. I don't name it, I just use the leash. So once she can settle like this, right next to me on the couch, then I'd start moving around the room, such as in the kitchen when I'm cooking food, and adding distractions and so on. When I'm no longer right next to her on place, I would tether her. So I would tie this leash to like a piece of heavy furniture, for example. That way, if I'm not paying enough attention and she does get off place, she won't be able to get really far before I'm able to bring her back. So she'll kind of self-correct with that. So pretty much that's that for place. It's a very simple exercise. It can prove challenging for dogs, especially for dogs who have issues with separation, but it's a great thing to work on because it teaches them that even if there's not like a clear physical boundary like the crate, I mean, this is still a little bit of a boundary. We use the raised cot because it's kind of like a significant difference from the space around it. That being said, you can use a blanket, a towel, a dog bed, anything you want as long as it's big enough for the dog's whole body to fit on. Because if it's too small, they'll start inching off, they won't really know what the boundary is. So yeah, this is place. It's a really, really good life skill for dogs to have, lots of practical uses for it, and it's just a good way to teach dogs boundaries around your space as well. Come here, lady. Come on. Good girl. And it's a chance for her to try and test the boundaries and me to reinforce them. So easy, passive training exercise to do with your dog once a day for 30 minutes to an hour or longer.